The Society of Saint Gregory produces a liturgy planner with a selection of songs for every Sunday Mass. When it comes to choosing songs for any celebration, first read the readings, the prayers, the antiphons, all of the set texts for that particular day. But also think about which songs will fit best at which points in the Mass, and think generally about the season of the Church's year that we're in, and the reason that that particular community are celebrating on that particular day. Bear in mind what your congregation sings well. That's a good starting point. You can perhaps sing something in a similar style, even though it may be a new song. All the way through the Bible, we're encouraged to sing a new song to the Lord, in the Psalms, in the New Testament and in the Old Testament. And it's important because no one hymn can contain a full description of who God is, and no one hymn contains all of the truths of our faith. We need a variety of texts. And as we continue to learn more and more about God, we need new texts which help us sing more about who He is and what we believe. Well, a good place to start is to sing a new text, but to a familiar tune. And one way that you can work out how to do that is to look at the very back of the music editions of your hymn book and find there the metrical index. If you count the syllables of each line of a new song, then that will generate a metrical code, the number of syllables in each line. And the metrical index lists the names of all the tunes in the hymn book underneath these categories, these metrical codes. And I just want to explain that the list is the name of the hymn tune, which may not be the most familiar words, the beginning of the verse or the beginning of the chorus. So, for example, something as popular as When I Survey the Wondrous Cross is listed in the metrical index under the tune Rockingham. And you'll soon find out which ones you know, and you can always check by looking back. It's not a foolproof system. So, for example, some very different tunes have exactly the same metre. The one that we sing, To Tell Out My Soul, has 10 syllables in every line, but so does the tune that we sing to the words Abide With Me. So it's important that you sing through the new words to the tune that you've chosen to make sure that the mood matches and that the poetic stresses also match the stresses of the music. Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The tune is simply too grand for the nature of the words, and vice versa. Tell out my soul the greatness of the Lord. The tune is too calm for those words.
So how do you set about introducing a new song to the congregation?
It's best if you introduce a new song to the congregation before the Mass starts. And a good way of doing that is for you to sing each phrase and indicate by a hand gesture that the congregation can join in repeating that phrase after you. You might sing the whole verse and then invite the congregation to listen, to sing quietly or to hum through. That recognises that different people learn in different ways. Of course, it is better if you can do this before the Mass begins, but sometimes it's necessary to introduce a new song during the Mass itself, and there it can be really helpful to have a soloist sing verse 1, invite everyone to hum verse 2, and to join in singing from verse 3 onwards. If this is something that you'd like to learn more about, then I recommend John Bell's book, which is called The Singing Thing Too. Repetition is really important. With any song that we love it because of the associations it has, and that's down to the number of times we've sung it on significant occasions. And it helps us to learn by repeating things. They become familiar. We take them to heart as we remember them. So it's important to repeat songs a few times to give them time to bed into the parish repertoire. And that's also part of the process of learning. So we might introduce a new piece by repetition on one Sunday, having it being played as a recording or by your music group while people are having coffee after Mass perhaps. And maybe the next Sunday, having it been sung as a solo or by the choir, and then the following Sunday, inviting the congregation to join in singing, by which time it will be familiar to them. Forge links with your parish school because of course there's a lot of singing that goes on in our parish schools, especially the primary schools. And as a new cantor you might learn a lot from watching how the music teacher in the school introduces songs to the children. And they might well welcome your input. It's a really good idea if the music that's being sung on the Sunday parish masses matches what the children are singing in assemblies and prayer services at school. So particularly if you are a novice cantor, it's probably a good idea to start by introducing a new song to small groups, rather than singing it for the very first time at a large-scale Sunday Mass. Wherever people pray in the parish, that prayer can be sung. So why not start by introducing a new song at a meeting of the St. Vincent de Paul Society, or when the children come together at the end of a youth club meeting on a Tuesday evening, and they would normally have a prayer at that point, but why not use that opportunity to sing together? And then, when you come to sing it as a parish community gathered on a Sunday for Mass, there's actually a core group of lots of different people scattered around the congregation who already know it. So it's one way to start small and build up to this new song being sung by everybody. There can be a resistance to singing a new song. Sometimes people are worried that as we begin to sing new songs, old favourites will be ditched. So it's quite important when you introduce a new song to also point out a well-loved favourite that's going to feature in the same service. Or perhaps if you're introducing and learning a new Gloria, you can reassure the congregation that they'll come back to singing the Gloria they know and love at Christmastide, for example. It's also important with any new song that we give a reason why that particular song is being sung. And that reason might connect with one of the readings or prayers or the season, but it might also be, as I've mentioned before, because it's one that's being sung in the parish school, or in order to stand in solidarity with one of the nations in the world that is in particular need at the time. And I would also encourage you to make use of online resources like worshipworkshop.org.uk, which contains a song bank of 100 hymns and songs, which can help to expand your repertoire so you can be singing a new song. They also include echo tracks, which means you can listen to each line and then join in singing it.
Do priests have a part to play in congregational song?
It's really important that the priest sings along, even very quietly if he feels self-conscious, because there are so many faithful Catholics who look to the priest for guidance on their participation in the liturgy. There's a very useful book called Cantor Basics. It contains everything you need to know about the ministry. Whatever approach you take to singing a new song and encouraging other people to join in with you, Cantor Basics says you need to motivate, demonstrate, imitate, participate, and congratulate.